Whack back to Dubsy Bricks for another episode of Building Mandalore and Lego. Last week made a load of progress on this section just here with the chute that goes down to the tunnels of Mandalore. This week I want to make a start on the section that goes in here. So I want to start the building, or the structure of the building, where it slides into that hole there, so I can build that all up and start doing the buildings that come across there. So we're going to get all of the technical bricks out, get some Technic pins, some plates, and see what we can come up with. The first thing I need to do is create a section that's going to slot into this hole here. Now at the present, this gap here is 32 studs on the back there and 22 studs along the side. I can't just make a block that's 32 by 22 to go in there, because it'd be just way too tight, and the amount of problems I'm going to have trying to force it in there, whether I build on top, is going to just snap. I want something that's going to slot in there really smoothly, but is in there firmly. I'm going to use the same technique that I've used on Arkham Asylum with Strange's Hidden Room, where you have the building and it's one stud narrower on both directions, and you put a modified plate on the side and then a normal plate. That way it is just a fraction smaller than the hole, and you can just slide it in there, but there's not much movement. What I can also do is put a jumper plate on the corner there, so when it all drops in place, the plate will clip onto the jumper plate and that'll hold it perfectly lined up. So what I'm going to do, first of all, work out what I'm going to do with a skeleton of the building. Then that way I can start building from there upwards. So let's get to it. And this contraption here, as ugly as it may be, is the base of the building. And it's pretty sturdy. Hopefully it's not going to fall apart. And I'm going to attach this to the building itself. We're going to have no problems at all. As you can see, it's a mixture of Technic bricks, plates, and the standard bricks. Everything's kept together, everything's lined up perfectly, and it fits in the hole like a glove. So this just slots in, as you can see, no problem at all. There's not that much movement. It's probably less than a millimetre in there. It will be up here by the time it's all in place, but it's going to work out absolutely spot on. Now, on the side here, as you can see, there's a plate that's kept on by a modified plate, which is between the two Technic bricks. These clips here are keeping everything in place, so it's all worked out perfectly. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to build the building on top of this, and I'm going to continue a Technic structure of some description all the way up that's going to help to compress everything together so it doesn't fall apart when I'm moving the building, as I want to be able to remove this building at any time so I can work on it if I have to move the mock and things like that. But yeah, really happy how that's come out. It did take a while just to get all the measurements correct, but all in all, can be happier. The structure I've got here is very flimsy on the front side here. As you can imagine, all the supports on the back here is very thin at the front here. What I'm going to do now is just bulk this all out. So what I want to be able to do is hold it from the back, and this does not slope at all by even 1 degree. So I'm just going to carry on putting some more of these Technic bricks across here, bricks around all the edge, carry on plating it up until I can make it as solid as rock. So let's carry on doing that and see how we get on. And this footprint of the building is proving to be quite the challenge. This front section here is just snapping off all of the time from the back there. I've had to put support here just to hold it all in place. And it is just being kept together by a couple of plates, one on the top and one on the bottom. And then you got obviously the bricks going all the way through here. Now I'm trying to join it in as many places as possible to help give it the structural integrity that it needs. And I'm sure that once I put a couple of row of bricks all the way around the building, it's going to help to keep it all together. But at the moment it is very, very fragile. But yeah, it's quite a challenge. I've had to hang this off of the table to connect the two together, so it's been at a 45-degree angle. This bit's been resting on my lap, that bit's been resting on the table, and I've been able to plate it together, and finally starting to get there with the progress on that. But yeah, it's quite the challenge, and so far this has probably been one of the hardest parts of this build. So after several hours of making this here contraption, it will just slide perfectly into the hole just here. So I'm going to put some tiles down underneath it, but that is basically how it's all going to fit in place. So now that I know that this structure all works well, I can start building the building up. And as you can see, I can actually hold it by the end here, and it is just not giving way. So there's plenty of strength in this structure now, which is exactly what I was after. With this building in the Mandalore mock, it has changed a few times in regards to its size. Originally I was going to be bringing it so it came all the way to the front of the mock here. It was going over by another 16 studs to the left there. However, due to not wanting this tunnel or chute going down to the tunnels of Mandalore being over 2 base plates, I brought that over to the right. That's meant I've had to shrink this building. Now, One thing I'm going to be doing is having a courtyard at the front. There's going to be a wall that goes up here at an angle, goes across and then down the other side. And I was going to have it so there was one big sheet of glass going up, and then you had the patterns on the front of the glass, as you see in the Mandalorian buildings. Now, one thing I am considering doing now is actually having a corridor that comes along this side here. It's a corridor that you see in Season 4 of the Clone Wars, and I think that'd be quite a cool location to have here. Even though that episode is not what this mock is based on, because it is a location from the Clone Wars, I think it would be pretty cool to have that in there. So that's something I'm going to look at doing on here. Couple of decisions I need to make is whether or not that I have the door mechanical or not, so I could quite easily put some cogs inside and have it so it goes up and down. And the other thing as well is whether or not I have this as a cut section so you can just permanently see in there, there's nothing over it, or whether I have it so it's a removable wall on there, so when you're not looking in there you see a nice flush side on the building. So just a couple of decisions I need to make. The other thing as well is the wall is inverted on the inside. However, I haven't got that many inverted slopes in dark bluish grey, which is the colour I'd need. So I'm contemplating using normal slopes and then turning them upside down. So it's a case of me being able to get a lot more work done sooner rather than later, and also utilising the parts that I've got there. With the corridors of Mandalore, I've decided I'm going to start by looking at the finer details on the walls, the prints that are on there, the patterns, and this is what I've come up with so far. This is 6 hours worth of work just to get to this stage. I've lost track of the amount of different techniques and ideas I've come up with for it, and this so far is the best one that I've managed to do. And it's a shame that you can still see the little gaps in here. Obviously I'm just using any piece possible at the moment. I will make sure it's all the right colour afterwards, but yeah, unfortunately I can't lose these little gaps just on the edge just there. Now, one thing that I will be looking to do is add these sections afterwards. So I'm going to build as much of the corridor up as possible, all of the parts in, and then these will just slot in place hopefully afterwards. If I do in the meantime have a brainwave, come up with another idea, then obviously I'll be able to change it over. But it's really interesting to see how many parts you get through just trying to make something as accurate as you can with source material. I mean, we just look at the amount of pieces just on the back there as well. It's no wonder a lot of these mocks turn out to be 100, 150,000 pieces when you use like 100 pieces just on a very small section like this. And here we have version 3 of the pattern that will be going in the corridor. And it would be a lot better if I didn't have that line going across there and there. I could just connect these two sides together using plates. And I very may well go back to doing it that way. Something's not quite clipping together properly on there. So that is something I will look at before I do the others of these. Here is the section which it's all going to be attaching to, and again it's a brick built wall side on here which is just kept together using a hinge piece on the back there. Now originally I was going to be using a lot of the normal slopes to do this section, as I haven't got many of these inverted ones left. However, I think it's going to be better to order in another 24 or so of those inverted slopes just to get a nicer finish to that. But all in all, really happy with what I've managed to get produced here. I can't believe how long it's taken to make this build. It has been ridiculously time consuming, but it's been satisfying when you finally get to the end and realise you've got something you're happy with. And we've got the Technic parts out, so we're going to be doing a door that actually opens at the end of the corridor, and this will just be operated on the other end of this axle here, so when you turn it, this will just go up and down. It's the same technique as I used on Jabba's Palace. You've got a couple of the Technic bars there, another one just slides in the middle, and it just slots in there nice, and it goes up and down really smoothly. And also, due to doing it this way, there's no slipping on that cog as well. So all I need to do now is just work out exactly where I'm going to put this in the building, and then build the door across, and then put another runner on the other side. And just checking in with an update here, and really happy with how this section is finally coming on. As you'd seen in the time lapse, I did change this out. Originally I had the circle, then the square bit, then the circle on the end there. However, it looks reminding me too much of a stereo with a speaker either end. But again, I think I am going to change that once more. It just doesn't look how I want it to look, but I'll have a think about that, look at some source material and just see what I can do with that to improve the visual of there. On the doorway here, you'll see there's some snot bricks on there on both sides. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be putting a light bluish grey plate on there and then some tiles over the top of it. The reason for that is the door that's going in there is going to be in dark bluish grey. And I don't want it so the wall then looks like it's part of the door. I want it to have something that's going to break up the colour side of things. Now this floor section here, I've just knocked this up really quickly, the same as one over the back, just to help me with the visual side of it to see how it's going to look once it's all been done. But there will be a lot more details on here, and I'm not sure what I'm going to put on the front here. I have got a couple of ideas, but again, I want to make sure that everything does look as I want it to. Now this section here, this again was so time consuming, two parts of it. Firstly, this section here, getting that all so it was strong enough that I could pick the whole section up did take so long to do, but it was time well spent, and I'm now really confident I can just lift this in and out whenever I need to, and it's not going to give way, collapse or break on me basically. These parts here again are pretty much a whole day just to come up with one small pattern on there, just for that small detail in a mock that I think is just going to give it a nice polished look once it's all been finished. Now I would like to have 2, if not 3 of these sections on this corridor here. Now how I go about doing that, I'm not sure yet. I'm going to certainly going to have to fill that hole in there, just plate that over, which isn't a big deal. It's quite easy to do. And the other thing I might do is shrink the size of that there. At the moment that's 8 studs. If I shrink it to 6, then that's going to enable me to just squeeze it all in and get more done. And the more I think about it, the more I think I will actually lit so you can actually see in the side of this building, rather than have a removable side on there or putting a pattern on the side of the mock. I think it'd be nicer that you can just visually just peer into it and just see the visual side of that. If I did ever end up taking this mock to a convention, it's how people would see it. They'd want to have a look in every little nook and cranny of the mock. So I think that's what I'm going to be doing with that. Now, I know I've got to order in a load of pieces to enable me to continue with this corridor section on here. So I'm going to have to turn my attentions next week, I think, to other parts of the mock. But yeah, really pleased with what I did manage to get done this week, although it's not a great deal visually wise, whereas last week I felt like you could visually see a lot of changes. This week it was so much more just working out the technical aspects of it, but a satisfying week all the same. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the update. If you have, please remember to give us a big thumbs up. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future content on the channel. And if you know anybody else you think would be interested in Mandalore or my Gotham build series, if you could share the channel with them, it'd be much appreciated. Anyway, thanks for popping by, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.